Over 16,000 people have been reported missing in Alaska since 1988, more than twice the national average. Many were never found, and a shocking number disappeared in one remote region, a place so vast, so isolated, that when someone goes missing, they can vanish without a trace. Could something be hunting them? Or is the wilderness hiding something far darker? I'm Josh, and on this episode of the Infographic Show, we're investigating the disturbing possibility that something in Alaska is making people disappear. In 1972, Nick Begich Sr. was one of Alaska's most recognizable figures, elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1970, representing the entire state. Ambitious and determined, he wanted to bring Alaska's vast wilderness and untapped potential to the heart of Washington, D.C. But those dreams wouldn't last long. Begich wasted no time making powerful friends, including the House Majority Leader Hale Boggs. The Southern Politico knew Alaska's Democrat faced a tough re-election battle, so he headed north to drum up support. They boarded a twin-engine Cessna 310 traveling from Anchorage to the state capital Juneau. They were joined by Begich's aide for what was supposed to be a routine flight to the next campaign fundraiser. And then they vanished. Two members of the House of Representatives, including a member of leadership, gone. The military and civilian rescue agencies were scrambled, but there was no trace of the men. There were several odd things about the case. No emergency transmission signal was ever heard from the plane, something that should happen even in the event of a crash. It was later revealed that the plane's transmitter was never installed. It was found sitting unused in Fairbanks. After 39 days, the massive search was called off and everyone on board was declared dead. And the scariest thing is, it keeps happening. A huge stretch of Alaska, from Anchorage and Juneau all the way up to Utqiagvik, has earned a chilling nickname, the Alaska Triangle. This remote wilderness is infamous for mysterious disappearances. Covering over 665,000 square miles, the majority of the land is composed of national parks, tiny towns and villages, and long, desolate roads. That means it's easy for someone to simply slip through the cracks, especially when the terrain is this hostile. Alaska borders the Bering Strait, one of the stormiest regions in the world. It's difficult for boats to navigate. Planes are highly vulnerable to rough air conditions, especially when they're small and not built for high altitudes. With harsh conditions and remote terrain, anyone who meets a tragic fate could vanish completely. They just disappear before anyone even learns what happened. And that's how the region has gained its terrifying nickname. The Alaska Triangle and the Bermuda Triangle have plenty in common. Both are remote areas where the chance of rescue is minimal. Both are prone to high winds and storms, and both are likely to be frequented by smaller planes, which have a much higher risk of crashing. These are all explainable factors. What isn't explainable is just how many people go missing when they're not in planes. More than 20,000 people have been reported missing in the region, with roughly 2,200 reports filed every year. And that's led some people to wonder if there is something darker going on here. Alaska has been the site of some of the most intriguing unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP sightings, in American history, dating back to before it was a state. In 1947, 3 teenage girls near Anchorage claimed to witness a strange white disc-like object above the local Air Force base. It was smaller than a plane and larger than a weather balloon. This happened the same year as Roswell, and while it never became as famous as the New Mexico event, it became the first of many spreading across Alaska. A panic or something darker? But first, want to uncover the truth about this and other mysteries? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It is way cheaper than a search party. In just 1 week during October 1950 alone, there were 7 UAP sightings in the small Alaskan city of Sitka. To this day, Alaska remains one of the hottest spots in the country for UAP sightings, especially with so many people vanishing into thin air. It was February 2023 when the mystery of UAPs in Alaska hit the headlines once again. Not long after a Chinese weather balloon entered U.S. airspace, putting defenses on high alert, a mysterious object appeared over northern Alaska. It was quickly shot down by the Air Force's F-22 fighter jets. The government didn't identify the object, but reports from the pilot soon sent people into a panic. Some said it was a car-shaped object moving through the air with no visible propulsion mechanism. Others said it didn't even show up on their radar systems. The debris of the craft sank into the sea, with recovery efforts later being abandoned. The theories of UAPs prowling the skies and abducting people haven't been proven, and there are relatively few claims of close encounters. With planes and hikers vanishing, these strange lights only deepen the mystery. But the sky might be haunted by something far stranger. Magnetic anomalies are common in the southeastern part of Alaska, near the state's major cities and at the base of the Alaska Triangle. These anomalies, which have the ability to mess with electronic equipment, are common over the water as well, and they could be responsible for sending planes down into the triangle's depths. Small planes face perilous conditions over the Alaskan wilderness. The closer to the coast and the Bering Strait the craft gets, the more dangerous the flight. Malfunctions and feedback over the navigation system could cause a fatal error that claims the life of everyone on board. That might explain why so many craft are disappearing into the void in the last frontier. But as long as there are still mysterious lights over the skies of Alaska, people will continue to wonder if there is an alien hand at work. But that doesn't explain just how many people vanish on land. For Erin Marie Gilbert, Alaska was supposed to be a new beginning. The 24-year-old Californian had moved up to Anchorage in 1995 to live with her sister and work as a nanny. She quickly made friends, including David Combs. The two soon agreed to go out on a date to the local Girdwood Forest Fair, located in a small village south of Anchorage. The pair spent some time at a beer garden before deciding it was time to leave. Erin Gilbert was never seen again. Combs was initially the prime suspect, but he protested his innocence. He claimed that he and Gilbert had returned to his car to find the battery dead. He left to get help, and when he returned, she was gone. He tried his car again, and this time it worked. He went back to the fair to look for Erin, but there was no sign of her. He searched into the night, but he was unsuccessful, eventually calling her family to see if she made it home. And that's when the panic began to spread. Gilbert had friends and family in the area, which meant her disappearance got a lot more attention. Her sister Stephanie organized a search the next morning, combing the woods with no success. Soon the Alaska State Troopers and other safety organizations joined in the efforts to find Erin. Combs was heavily investigated, but eventually cleared of suspicion, partially due to how involved he was in alerting people to the case. A reward of $35,000 was offered, but there were no leads. No signs of foul play, no human remains, no traces of her clothes. It was one of the cleanest disappearances and one of the most mysterious. There have been plenty of theories about Gilbert over the 30 years that have followed. The Girdwood Forest Fair is located between two creeks, the smaller California Creek and the ocean-bound Glacier Creek. If Gilbert chose to try to walk out of the area, it is possible she could have lost her footing and fallen in one of them. Other theories, like she simply got lost in the woods and fell prey to the elements or was attacked by a predator, don't fit due to a lack of evidence. At least, not a certain kind of predator. About 69% of murdered indigenous victims are women or girls, many vanishing in remote areas where help is days away. Serial killer Robert Hansen exploited this remoteness, claiming dozens of victims over more than a decade. And Alaska makes for the perfect hunting ground. It is one of the best spots in the country for a serial killer to ply their trade. There are areas of the state heading north, like the infamous Dalton Highway, where it can be hundreds of miles between stops with people few and far between. It's not likely that there is one serial killer behind a large number of killings, but a horrifying number of disappearances could be attributed to foul play that is very hard to track. But the more likely option is that Alaska is home to a very different kind of killer. Alaska draws a certain type of visitor, the type that thrives in brutal conditions. Many are seeking adventure, like moose hunting, ice fishing, or hiking remote areas. They embrace solitude and danger. But if something goes wrong out there, it might be very hard to get out alive. They're in harsh conditions miles from rescue, with dangerous terrain and wildlife all around them. Even the most skilled adventurers in the world can fall prey. Naomi Uramura never saw a limit he didn't want to push. Born in Japan in 1941, he spent the next 43 years testing just what a single man could accomplish. By his 30th birthday, he had climbed 5 of the 7 summits, he had completed the first solo journey to the North Pole, rafted the Amazon River alone, and climbed Denali. He even summited Everest. He was a man seemingly without fear. Alaska doesn't care for reputations. Uramura first climbed Denali in 1970 during the warm season. He did it solo like he did most of his adventures, but this wasn't enough for him. There was one mountain left, Vinson Massif in Antarctica. He dreamed of traveling to the southern continent solo and accomplishing that mark as well, but even he knew he wasn't ready. As a way to prepare, he decided that he would do another solo climb of Denali, this time in the winter, something that had rarely been accomplished. Uramura was determined to do the impossible. Getting to Denali in the winter means summiting glaciers filled with perilous shifting crevasses that can be covered with snow. Traveling with minimal gear to reduce the risk of ice collapsing beneath him, he began his daring climb in February 1984. We know that he successfully reached the summit. His Japanese flag was found planted on top of the mountain. But no trace of Naomi Uemura was ever seen again. He last spoke by radio with Japanese journalists, letting them know that he was headed back down. It was a windy day with hazardous conditions. At some point before he reached base camp, he vanished. The mountain was combed by rescuers, led by a team of experienced campers, and they tried to follow Uemura's route. They found evidence of his journey, a cave that he had stayed in, a diary revealing that he had ditched much of his gear to lighten his load. It's possible that he fell into one of the deeper crevasses, too far to ever be found. But like so many mysteries up here, no answers are coming. And when there are no answers, people's minds turn to darker topics. Alaska is a mysterious place. 90% of the state will never be seen by the majority of visitors. Even many top tourist locations are incredibly remote. In many parts of Alaska, the sun doesn't rise for weeks during the winter, including a famous 65-day polar night in Utqiagvik. The northern lights can often dance across the horizon, giving the entire place a supernatural feel. And with so many missing, people suspect something darker. The Kushtaka, a terrifying shape-shifting creature from Alaska Tlingit folklore, has been said to roam the wilderness, and over the years those who have come searching for answers have heard bizarre legends. One speaks of a massive black pyramid hiding in the frozen landscape, possibly extraterrestrial in origin. Some legends say it's located within a secret government facility, possibly a northern Area 51. Those who get too close don't get out. Could these be connected to the missing people? One of the most mysterious disappearances in Alaskan history was that of Gary Frank Southerton, who had been missing since 1976. The New York native was an adventurer and a free spirit. He set off for the Alaskan wilderness hoping to find himself. He was going to explore the Porcupine River near the Canadian border. Having previously worked on an Alaskan pipeline, Southerton was an experienced explorer and had planned to walk the river with a friend. But that day, he never turned up. Southerton had friends in the area and family back in New York who wanted answers, so they were able to get a search party going quickly. But the trail goes cold fast in Alaska, and few signs of Gary Frank were ever found. His glasses and his ID were found along the trail in 1977 after the family hired a professional mountain guide to join the search. But hope soon dwindled. A tombstone was erected in his honor, reading "Lost in Alaska," and he joined the sad roster of those who vanished without a trace. And for almost 50 years, that's how it remained. It was 1997 when a hunter was walking the Porcupine River and discovered a morbid sight along the riverbank: a human skull. Troopers combed the area for signs of a body, but none was found, so the skull was packed up and sent to the state medical examiner's office. It was marked as unidentified remains and stored away until 2022, when the case was reopened. The science of genealogy had only gotten better, and many missing persons cases were being cracked around the country. Bone samples were used to create a DNA profile, and they found the first hints of the truth. Now they just needed a genetic match. Southerton's brother was still alive and was able to get closure, but some new questions came with it. How did his brother die? Markings on the skull pointed to a possible bear attack, but the lack of any sign of struggle or blood from a fatal attack makes it anything but an open and shut case. The Gary Frank Southerton case was one that got an answer, albeit decades later. That's more than enough time for thousands more to vanish in the vast Alaska Triangle. And the terrain will always be the enemy of the answers here. The Alaska Triangle is over 300,000 square miles, more than half of the state. The disappearances can happen in small towns, national parks, and along remote roads. In many cases, by the time anyone knows what's happening, the trail will have gone completely cold. Thousands vanish here each year, often without a trace. Is it the wilderness or something far darker? The rate of disappearances in the Alaska Triangle is staggering, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. That's led to one of the most bizarre theories yet. The region is home to energy vortexes that simply absorb people and take them somewhere. This spins out of the magnetic irregularities that cause plane malfunctions. Terrain near the Arctic Circle is infamous for energy fluctuations, but the other root of this theory is that people simply vanish. Just another victim of the Alaska Triangle. Alaska isn't the only place where people vanish without a trace. Sometimes an entire airplane can vanish. Check out why search for MH370 has been restarted for more on the most infamous disappearance of all time. or click on this video instead.